Hello and welcome to the Science Broadcast. Today we're going to talk about ignorance. One of the very disturbing trends that I start observing is something that people call the right to ignorance. You have a right to be ignorant. I'm not sure how this even became a thing, but no, you do not have a right to be ignorant. This is just a ridiculous concept. Ignorance is a bad thing. Ignorance leads to a lot of negative outcomes, and I cannot in any way say that anyone has the right to be ignorant any more than I can say anyone has the right to do any form of harm to anyone else. We do not have such rights. We have been convinced for a long time that we have rights we actually do not have. What is a right? Is it something that we are born with? Is it something inherent? In my understanding, and I'm not a linguist, that is what a right is. We are born with an inherent right, whatever that right is. How ignorance is inherent? How learning is inherent? It isn't. So you don't have a right to ignorance any more than you have a right to knowledge. These are active things. You make choices. The moment you make a choice is not a right anymore. And if that you don't make a choice but something is bestowed on you, it's still not a right, it is a privilege, right? So, no, I'm afraid you do not have a right to be ignorant. In fact, virtually every developed country on the planet.
Motion detected at the front door.
Thank you, dear. Any developed country on the planet has mandatory school programs. Kids have to go to school at least until high school, and then they have to, in many countries, compete for the privilege of entry to university. In the United States, that privilege is translated to cost. It's not really a privilege. If you can afford it, you can go to university. In many other countries, and in my opinion correctly, going to school has nothing to do with your financial strength or weakness. It has to do with your intellectual one. So in many countries, when you finish high school, you're going to partake in nationwide examinations that will place you against your peers, and they will rank you in some form of algorithm that then will allow you to attend a university, with the most coveted careers, of course, being at the highest top of the list, and the list goes down all the way to the least coveted careers. Now, is that a right? Do you have a right to that? No, this is a privilege. This is something that is bestowed on you by your fellow citizens via their taxes that probably pay for the schooling you're going to get, by your government, etc. So, why we're talking about that in the science broadcasts? A very alarming trend is not just the right to ignorance, which just I cannot comprehend. Why do you have such a right? Why do you have such a right when there is a plethora of knowledge around you to say, nah, I'm not going to learn things. I'm much better off being ignorant. I'm much better off saying the planet is flat. I'm much better off saying that man did not walk on the moon. I'm much better off saying all kinds of nonsense because I don't want to take the time and the effort to learn something. Is that really a right? Is laziness a right? Because the right of ignorance is, in my view, a right of laziness. I don't want to learn, I'm not going to learn. So it is my right, isn't it? I don't have to do anything that requires any level of effort on my part, and I'm not going to do anything that requires me to expand even the slightest amount of energy. No, you don't have the right. And why you don't have the right? Why isn't ignorance a right? Well, in my opinion, ignorance is not a right because ignorance comes at a cost, a social cost. Ignorant people make bad decisions. Ignorant people do not contribute equally to the society that live within. Ignorant people are ignorant. So, by damaging the society you live in and claiming that ignorance is a right, you are simply claiming that you do not have any social responsibility. Can that be true? Is lack of social responsibility something we can choose as a right? Do we have a right to be socially irresponsible? Well, if you said no to that, how can we have a right to be ignorant if we don't have a right to be socially responsible? Social responsibility is not a right, it is not a privilege, it is something that we must do in order to be contributing members to our society. That goes along with our right to be wrong. Do we have a right to be wrong? I don't again think that's a right. Being wrong is really tied very much to ignorance. And since we don't have a right to be ignorant, we do not have a right to be wrong. The let's agree to disagree motion, stupidest thing I've ever heard. I will not agree to disagree with something that I know to be wrong. I will not agree to disagree with something I know patently to be wrong, that there is factual information that clearly supports a point of view. I'm not going to disagree for something I have no knowledge about, but I'm not going to agree to disagree on something that I know that the opposing opinion is actually a wrong opinion. Inherent rights came from. Why people insist that they have rights they actually don't have. And it is a very interesting circle here. That right comes from ignorance. So ignorant people argue that they have a right to be ignorant because they don't understand what the right is. Because ignorance is lack of knowledge. So how can we grant them any credibility to their position when their position is itself really rooted on ignorance? If I demonstrate something to be true to you, and you say to me, okay, you demonstrated to be true, but I choose not to accept it as true, I choose to be ignorant, you cannot reasonably expect me to say, okie dokie, you want to be ignorant, be my guest, be ignorant. I don't care that you don't know what you're talking about. I don't care that what you're following is incorrect. Now, you might say, what's the harm? Well, there can be a great harm. What if your incorrect belief might lead to your death, for example? What if you believe that you can eat all day long, and that's your right because science that demonstrate how negative obesity is and how it can shorten your life, and how a lot of medical conditions are relating very clearly and correlating very clearly to obesity. Well, you can choose to ignore that, but that's a harm. What if your ignorance harms others, your children, your family? What if your ignorance causes social harm? For example, we have a raging debate about climate change. And I say raging debate only in our country. The rest of the world sees the evidence because they're critical thinking people and they're not ignorant people. They see the evidence. They say, yes, global warming is a thing. Now, people start muddying the water and say, well, but it is not man-made. Okay, let's talk about that, but let's say that it is not happening. There is a difference in arguing about the cause, and there is a difference to say, no, it is not. The satellite pictures that show very clearly that the ice is rescending in the poles are not wrong. You saying that this is not happening are wrong because the evidence demonstrates that you're wrong. Your ignorance cannot be accepted as a valid point of view because your ignorance is not based on data. Science provides us with that ability to collect evidence and deal with them as facts and then draw conclusions based on those facts. So my friends, no, ignorance is not a right, should not be a right, and I think knowledge is the only alternative. So really knowledge is not an alternative. Knowledge is the only path. Knowledge sets you free. Nelson Mandela is credited to have said that they can take a lot of things away from you. People can break your heart. People can throw you in jail. People can lie about you. People can take your property away. But there is only one thing that people cannot do to you. They cannot take away what you know. And knowledge is the true power. I don't know for a fact that Mr. Mandela said that, but regardless of who said it, if Mr. Mandela did, I'm in total agreement. If Mr. Mandela didn't, I'm in total agreement with whoever did say that. Knowledge is the true power because knowledge is the thing that stays with you. And knowledge is what allows you to earn a living. And knowledge is what allows you to make good choices. And good choices is what allows you to live a good life. So ignorance is not a right. Knowledge is not a right. They are both a choice. But how you're going to make good choices? Are you going to make good choices when you're ignorant, or are you going to make choices when you're knowledgeable? So I postulate that you're going to make good choices only when you are knowledgeable. So I hope you enjoyed this short returning video of the science broadcast, and I will make a very serious attempt this time to keep them going, but life is busy. In any case, thank you for watching if you made it that far, and I hope I will see you soon. Goodbye.